and welcome to the Psychic Kitchen podcast. Today we have Sheri Collins of InfinitySourceCode.com.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Sheri.
To Jimmy.
Thank you, brother. Yes, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I think this is episode 9. So, welcome, Sheri. If you would, obviously, I've known you for a few years. Thomas has known you for a while. But if you'd just like to introduce us, tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you into sort of this whole business. Hey, Gail. Hey, Ali. So, yeah, all yours, Sheri.
Thank you so much. So I jumped into this about 5.25 years ago, kind of led in by a friend of mine. She did tarot and she's like, you got to go take this Reiki thing. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. Don't know what that is. Had no interest. And then it all just kind of unfolded. The one thing I didn't know is that it would actually be life-changing. The moment I stepped in and went through that process, it was almost like this download of remembering, and it just accelerated forward from that point. And I started off not knowing it. I was a carpenter before that. I just finished school. So walking into this was like brand new for me. It was like an unfolding of a remembering that was way beyond anything I could tangibly like come to, because, you know, you got to go to school and you got to do this. And I'm just like, hey, this is what's wrong with your knee. And it was like, how did I know that? So for me, it just kind of unfolded really quick, went through Reiki and then to Akashic, started building that course with my guides, because there was things that it almost like it was too basic, and it's like, okay, show me more. And that just led into healing groups and, you know, doing thousands of healings on people, understanding the body system really well. And as I kind of grew into the gifts, everything kind of came together really quick, but in an understanding that was just right for me. I actually received a guide. His name is Spirit of the Highest of High, One Hand Below God Wisdom. And for me, I was actually in the middle of reading Anthony Michael's book, and reading his description in the front of his guide. And I went, is that my guide? And they just started laughing. They're like, no, yours is wisdom. I'm like, sweet. And so as this unfolded, it became very clear why he was my guide. And the concept of channeling and trance channeling, Jimmy and I actually did some trance channeling together. That unfolding really helped to solidify some of the processing of what was going on and how I learned. And I will say this, though, every piece of the journey that I've gone through makes more sense now of why I learned so quickly. And taking that back through this whole process has shown me why in school it was like, okay, I can't get enough of this. I'll do your homework and I'll do this for you. And so this unfolded really quick for me, and everything came like super easy. And that's not to float my boat when I bring stuff forward. It's like, here's this and this and this and this. And it's not very often that it's wrong. So it's like you thrive off the knowing and the intuition and what you can see, sense, know, and feel. And for me, it just amplified everything. And then being able to teach was a big thing for me. I always knew I wanted to. Even when I was a carpenter, I spent a lot of money on a lot of tools and machinery to be like, okay, I'm going to do this carpentry shop. And then, no, you're not. Sell it all, you know. And now I actually have a carpentry shop in my garage. But
Cool.
It like brings everything full circle as you step into this and start learning. And I don't know about you guys, but right now with where we're at in this whole ascension shift, it's making you question a lot of things. Like I've been through this whole thing over the last 2 days. I'm like, show me the truth of this. Show me the truth of this. And it's coming full circle where it's like, okay, relax now. You got the answer. Now move on. Right. So it's really showing me to trust, connect to God as much as you can, and just stay grounded in everything that you do, sense, and be. And really try not to falter off that. I know we all go through different things, but as you navigate this journey, you're going to be challenged. There's lessons that you've got to learn. And it's just staying true to yourself as you learn them. There was things that I never thought I could do. And now that it's coming to fruition, like they closed my Akashic records and I just sat there and went, what? Because you're so used to that one tangible thing to go and do. And then they close it and it's like, oh, but I worked so hard on that. And they're like, exactly. And you don't need to keep going in there. It's done. So I think, you know, for me, this journey has just been one of I fit, I belong.
Yeah. Lovely. I have a question. You said about connecting to God. What is God to you?
So I actually have a different understanding of this now that I've been to Mount Shasta and did a plant medicine retreat, because I asked for the next level of healing. And when I went in, If you've never done plant medicine, it's like this kaleidoscope moves out of your way and you go up to wherever you need to go or experience whatever. Totally stood with this ball of white light with this line right through it. And it was like right into my head. And he's like, here's your download of all this stuff from Atlantis. And I just went, holy crap. And I literally went, who are you? And he's like, God. I'm like, cool. And then another lady stepped forward as well. And I'm like, cool. And so for me, it's never, I've seen him tangibly in the physical, which is how I needed to see him, especially in the Mind's Lab. We can create any imagery we want to. So I've seen him stand there in full form. And I'm like, okay, Melchizedek, I know who that is. I know who you are. I've seen Jesus. I've trans-channeled both Source and Jesus at the same time. So for me, it's nothing new to me. But this representation I always knew existed. I just needed to see it with my own eyes.
Let me ask you this. So, the question I've been having, I've been having conversation with my guides about it. So there's God, but I'm wondering if there's even a higher source of that. Like if there's a God of our reality. And then there's like a creator above all of that.
I don't think anything is untangible. I think it's what you need it to show up as in any given moment. So if you need that leveled system, they're going to show it to you that way. I think we had this conversation about Akashic. You can go to this one, you can go to the Galactic, but then you can go to Soul School and the Halls of Amenti. And, it's a never ending ladder system, however you want to achieve it for yourself. I would say if you need to understand that there is that, it's part of the experience that I'm going through with kind of similar to that is put yourself on the pedestal and overlook everything and then come back and join people when you're in the presence of everyone else, right? Because we walk side by side with each other. There is no hierarchy necessarily in this physical, tangible sense. But if you need a higher representation of yourself, stand on that pedestal and see everything in, I'll say like a glorified state for yourself. If you need the God, you need the other God, you need the demigod, you need the whatever, it's going to show up exactly how you need it. So I wouldn't be opposed to any of that. I think whatever resonates with you, whatever you need of that representation for you, grab onto it, see how it feels. There's things that people grab onto and they don't make sense, but it does to them. And I'll look at it and go, huh? But it's not for me. I can't judge you on that experience for you. If you need that, that's how it'll show up. There's a lot of things out there right now. This is question period. Is this legit? Yeah. Is this real? Is this true? What am I diving into? Because you hear the both sides of the story from everybody, but I will share this was what I've noticed over the last couple of days. If you listen to people's words and how they convey something, it will start to show you that unraveling of why they chose the direction they're in now. So even as you say that, it's like, what do you need to understand of that for yourself to understand where you are? Are you down here with everything up here, or are you overlooking everything? Because at the end of the day, it is God, the creator, whichever creator you need, the whole universe, the whole tangible, the whole earth, whatever that is, right? For me, I don't debate a lot of things. Flat earth, round earth, I really don't care. It's how you need to see something. And I think that's your trueness to you. I think that's important. Right? Yeah. As you show up for who you are, what do you need of that? What does that help with somebody else's journey? As we walk through it, because not everyone's got the same, everyone's perception of it is different. And I can't knock you for having that perception, but I can encourage you to keep going with it and see where it comes.
Well, for me, I like to question. So I'm always looking at different questions. It's just part of my nature.
Yep.
Like I'm always questioning.
Oh, I just went through that. I'm like, if this is real and this is legit, show me the truth. And it's all about this. And it's about the pendulum and it's about the stones. And because I want to know, I'm legit curious. Is this truth? Is this real? Is this made up crap? I want to know. And all of a sudden it's like, here, go deep dive this way. And it's like, oh, this is demons. No, this is this. And oh, ayahuasca's this. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, good point. Your point. And then you listen to them speak and it's like, well, now I understand why that is for you. Keep going, keep going. And all of a sudden it's that one nugget that you've asked to see and it's like plopped in your face and it gives you that entire view of the 360. And then you're like, okay, I'm good. Because it's everything you need to pick a part of it that says, okay, I'm good. I'm aligning where I need to be. This is my truth. Nobody else has to see it the same way. So question everything, I think. There's nothing we shouldn't be questioning, because whether you feel you've been lied to or you've been told the truth, it's still your reality. You're creating it for yourself.
Do you one thing that I've noticed, or something that jumps out to me when I speak to people, and there's no necessarily anyone in particular, just going through every day, is how people's words sometimes they contradict themselves. They'll say one thing and then they'll do another, or they'll say one thing and make a statement, and then they'll say another statement that is exactly the opposite, but they don't necessarily realize the contradictions that they're having. And that's something that I've noticed quite a lot. I don't know whether, I guess we all kind of pick up on that to some degree, but it's a question of how do you approach that, or whether you actually even need to approach that, pull someone up on that, because surely it's up necessarily for them to realize themselves without someone sort of telling them what to do, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think you have to that's the line you have to decide for yourself, where you insert your opinion and where you insert a nugget of, hey, that's amazing. What about this side of it as well? I do. There's so many situations where you have your information, I have mine, and it's about and I think this whole 3 years of being locked up in our homes and told not to go, I think that's a great example of that. Oh, but you can't do that. But yes, you can. But I'm not allowed. Yes, you are. So it's learning that balance of where is me saying something to judge you or criticize? Where is that even worth it? Because you may already be having a poopy day, and if I add to it, then you're just going to go off the handle. So really, maybe it's about just what needs to be said. Sometimes most people just want you to hear them. They just want you to listen. So filter listen. I don't need to take on everything that you're saying as truth. I can listen and say, here's what I see of that. One thing I've noticed with people, I do a lot of coaching. So with me, when you've had two people involved in one situation, it's always a situation. It's never really the other person. So when you're trying to convey something, if you just go right into the situation instead of the other person, it actually creates a neutrality. There's a gentleman who talks about the other. If you harp on your children or you come right out to somebody, they get defensive. But if you convey it in different words, all of a sudden it's calm and there is no reaction. So I think it's your opinion. So as long as you're not giving an opinion, you're just stating something into the situation or circumstance. I think voice it in a way that comes from kindness. We don't have to be rude, right? We don't have to swear. We don't have to be rude. Even I had a situation last night and I just ended up giggling and I couldn't even stop giggling. And it was like the dumbest thing that I did. And I'm like, oh my word. So I can choose to use dumb, or I can just choose to laugh about it and say, you know what, lesson learned. I don't need to do that anymore. We don't need to react to anything because that's the charge. So you're just charging another situation on top of a situation.
And also I found, I think most people are like this, but no one likes being told what to do, or kind of their actions pointed out to them per se, but they'll gladly accept it if it's, like you say, conveyed in a way that doesn't necessarily that they don't feel like they're being attacked
Exactly
as such, or called out on something. Not to say that doing that is necessarily wrong, because, well, I guess
I think how you convey that, though, how you convey that to the other person. Yeah, parenting is a great example.
Some people need that direct approach. Some people want that. It's almost like I'm quite happy to have that approach. If I'm acting in such a way that I don't realize I'm doing it, I'd rather someone just say, look, you're behaving like this, and like, oh yeah, I see that, sorry, sort of thing. Whereas some people don't like that. Some people don't like that direct approach. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say parenting is like a really good example of that. Like my daughter and I, we can butt heads like no tomorrow because we're very similar. But as soon as you see it from their perspective of, I just need you to hear me, we can just pull that apart and go, hold on a second. The way we're communicating with each other doesn't work. So we have to change the way we communicate. And all of a sudden it becomes this harmony in the communication, right? It's just a talk. It's not, oh, you did this and you know that. It becomes this calmed effect. So I think if you need the reaction, there's something inside of you that's looking and thriving from that as well, which is fine. Everyone can choose whichever way that resonates with them.
Which I think is interesting with social media lately. Everyone's reacting to each other. And I don't mean just like creators. I mean like in comments. Like it's a free-for-all fight where people are getting like dopamine hits off of making their opinions known and then pissing other people off and just going back and forth. And I'm like, I saw this 2 years ago when I first got on TikTok, maybe on Facebook too before that, but I was just like, man, this is gonna happen worse. I can feel it. Like it's gonna get so much out of control. But now I watch, I'm just like, this is insanity.
It's because we have nothing better to do, right? We forgot we can go back outside. Part of that is, right? Or we're social media dependent. Scroll. Oh yeah, scroll. Oh yeah. So, your attention span is one of a fly, which maybe has more than that sometimes. But we have to relearn what's normal for yourself. For me, it's not sitting on, like I'll go live, but then that's not my thing. I don't need to sit on social and go hound everyone's comments because I don't care. Even somebody asked, oh, did you go over to this other person's new platform? I'm like, no. Like, isn't it supposed to be show up for yourself first? How am I showing up? How am I being of service? And for me, the of service is really important, right? It's what can I do to help? How can I serve? And that stems from everything. If you're bitching in the comments, I just don't care. To me, you go fight amongst yourselves. That's your thing to bear at the moment. In that comment, if you're rude, so there is one lady, and I will say this, she is gorgeous, like stunning, green eyes, bald head. Everyone calls her Sinead O'Connor, and I'm like, to me, that's rude. First and foremost, if you need that as your own representation. But then the comments go nasty. And I sit there and go, this is what society has become, is that we need to nitpick at people's appearances. And guy, I'm telling you, she could be a model, no problem. She is stunning. But I think that's where people grow up going, I'm fat or I'm ugly and this and that because of these comments. And because of the fun we can poke at somebody. I know I've been there myself since August. I've been like, I'm ugly, I'm not pretty. It's devastating to go through that. But the universe shows it to you as a lesson. What do you need to know this for yourself? And I'm going to prove it to you that you are beautiful and that you are stunning and that you are all these things without anybody from the outside telling you, because it has to be learned within us first. We grow up wounded. Oh, I asked the boy out and he said no. That's normal, right? That's a normal behavior. What's coming up now is like, oh, well, when I was 6, the boy touched me here, and I sit there and go, excuse me? Like, it's appalling how we approach some of this stuff. So I think right now it's about, do I need to, and exactly what you said, Jimmy, do I need to say something in the comments, or is that for me to just sit back and observe or, defend that person? And it goes to show where we're at as a humanity. If we're supposed to be rising into this new earth and that's how we still treat people, there's no way in hell we are there. Not a chance. If that's how we're treating people, it's not a thing. You're not ascending anywhere, guys. You're in your moment. So if that's how you want to be treated, keep going. But at some point, we have to rise together and say enough, right? And that's where it's getting to. It kind of all have had enough. And it's like, where does the communication come in to say, hey, that's not acceptable? But it has to start within you first, right? You can take, and I've said this before, even on my own stuff, is you can take a woman who's 400 or 500 pounds and have him with the skinniest man on the planet. And they are so freaking in love with each other. They don't look at anybody else. They are just so in love. And everybody in humanity who thinks that's wrong will comment. That's where we need to change. Because they're in love, you're jealous because you don't have what they have. Let's get that out in the open. So your communication outward is, when do I say something? When is it okay to speak up and have that voice for someone who's being attacked or someone who's being judged? I think that's where we need to start shifting as humanity. And the lies that are told, right? Whatever perception of your own lie truth you've got going on, that has to shift as well. And that starts within. It's your perception where's the tangible truth? Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's like one person posts one video and all of a sudden every other one's got the same video. It's like you forgot to think for yourself and put out something of a nature of something of truth for yourself, not a regurgitated post of somebody else's. So it's like, what are we actually doing with these social media platforms? And I think that's something I've considered for a while. Like, I'm ready to step off of them all and just start a private one, so that it's like, let's create from organic. Let's be the front runners and the leaders of this change we want to see.
Yeah, totally. And you said about going out, we forgot that we can go outside. And I think that sort of is a nice segue into your trips that you've been organizing with Tanya. And so do you want to tell us about those and what your where you've been so far, what your experiences have been? Because I'm sure you've had a few.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to share. So we've got a plant medicine retreat coming up in Sedona mid-March, the third week in March. We've got another plant medicine coming up in Mount Shasta at Guru Shasta, the first week in May. And then I have a 10-day retreat in Ireland, the first 10 days of June. And then we're doing possibly an ayahuasca retreat in Peru. So those are this year. Last year we did Shasta, Sedona for both plant medicine. And then Tanya and I did Egypt. Tanya will be accompanying on all but the Ireland one for this year. So we did Egypt. We did, I think it was 9 days in Egypt. It was amazing. We did the Nile. We did the Red Sea. We did Luxor, which for me was massive because I could download the understanding of the hieroglyphics, which was brand new for me. And when we went to Isis's temple, I actually remembered in a ceremony, not a ceremony, a hypnosis thing that I went into. I actually was in it. They have these arena. I don't know if you guys have looked at any maps of Egypt, but every place that you go to has these center rings, and they're like ceremony rings. So if someone got married, it would be in this ring, anointed, whatever, pharaoh, whatever, in these rings. And every place has them. They have these little things. Saqqara has them. Luxor has them. So it was very interesting to go, that's where this was, and not knowing. And it just comes to you like this downloaded information, seeing the 7 keys and the 7 doors. I was like, oh, that's this, this, and this. So we're still in the process of coming into the 7th key. And I was like, where's that coming from? You know, and being able to walk around and go, that stone's in the wrong spot. I'm just sitting there going, what? You know, like it was so fascinating. Just uncovering some of this stuff. So yeah, it's been a beautiful experience just to be able to travel. And I'm so excited to do more. Like my family and I are going to do UK and Germany next year as well. So just us.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really excited.
I mean, I live in the UK. I live in the UK, so I can understand why you're coming here. But why Germany? Mind you, I've been to Germany. Germany's lovely. But
my children want to go. I'm like, you get a 2-day stop to go visit the village because they do Oktoberfest here like every year. So for us, it's like Germany regurgitated itself all over our town for Oktoberfest. So I'm used to it. They're not. So like, we want to go to Germany. I'm like, it looks great from the airport, honey. They're like, no, we want to go explore. So I'm like, okay. So yeah. So we're going to do right after Ireland. We're going to go 2 days in the UK and then 2 days in Germany.
Oh, right. Excellent.
Yeah. Possible retreat coming up in Australia at November, but that's still in the works.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Yeah. And have you done any retreats, Thomas? Like attended? I mean,
I've done a bunch of events. I've attended some retreats. I was taught a long time ago that ayahuasca, I shouldn't do ayahuasca. I've always been a bit rebellious. I think everyone knows that. So I never did ayahuasca. I've done plenty of fungi and DMT. But I always felt, because I would have clients come to me after certain ayahuasca retreats, and this isn't every ayahuasca retreat by any stretch, but they'd have some issues. Like maybe they connected them with the wrong thing. And then I would have to help them get away from whatever that thing is or remove it, or whatever the case may be. So that kind of tainted how I looked at things for a couple of years until I did DMT again. I mean, I was still doing mushrooms and stuff. But yeah, I feel like there needs to be better facilitators at these kind of retreats that know what they're doing. Because a lot of times I have noticed, because my friend Cameron did a massive one in like Colorado, and I was telling him about railroad psychs, just some stuff I learned in witchcraft. And he was like, I just felt the need to put these spikes all the way around this thing. And they were doing ayahuasca, they were doing mushrooms, or mixing it all together. And I knew they had no idea what they were doing. But he's like, man, when I took those spikes out after it was done, he's like, this grid of energy just fell. Like they're being totally protected. He's like, you told me that for some reason, which in my mind, I had no idea what I was telling him even to do. But I was like, you need to put spikes around everywhere. But yeah, so I will be doing that, my guides are saying. I don't know, for some reason I have to be focused on Atlanta for the next couple months. I feel in Atlanta, there's the best like spiritual teachers have passed away. I feel like I tried to run away from this place. I went to Mississippi, I went to Louisiana, I went to Alabama, I kept going all these different places. But I was like, there's some reason why I need to be in Atlanta right now.
Well, you have to remember, as those leaders pass, like some of us are here to take that next level. Yeah. So that we can guide people in, right? It's a whole different thing. Like you're going to see, and I've seen it coming for a while. It's starting already. You're going to see the collapse of some businesses and companies because their people are going to turn against them because what they're teaching is not the truth. And they need to see it for themselves. No one can tell you this person's bad. That's great. Go figure it out for yourself. And when you figure that out, you're going to turn, because we are all seeking the same thing at the end of the day. And when you finally realize, oh shit, now it comes back. And I've already seen it. I've seen videos of people calling people out, and I'm like, and here you go. You choose for yourself every direction you take, whether it's ayahuasca, whether it's, gritting up your space and providing that comfort for yourself as you go into certain things. I think it's your own awareness of what needs to happen for you, right? No one's going to be able to determine, go do ayahuasca. No, pushing you is not going to make you want to do it any faster, aligning into what's yours.
Yeah, I have no problem with it now. I do it now. It would have to be the right people. You get where I'm going. It'd have to be the right people. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I said the same thing. I'm like, I watched a documentary on it from Aubrey Marcus. And I literally sat there and cried. I was like, oh my word. And then I'm like, okay, now I really need to go. Cause I was already like, hey, Tony, like he's the shaman. He does the plant stuff in his retreats. And I'm like, I need to go do this. There is a calling, but I'm not just going to trust anybody. Like I trust him and I understand why I trust him. But it's like this draw that's like, I need to do this. And then I'm done. It's like, because you won't be drawn to it if you have no desire to do it. But now that I've done it, it's like, I feel like there is a part of it with the right people. I feel like the experience you get out of it is one of, I want to say grounding, but also completion, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like, I don't need to chase it. I can just allow. I don't need to figure shit out. It's already done. I feel like there's this aspect of certain plant medicines that allow you to have that. So for me, I think it's, if the opportunity arises, take it. And discern for yourself. And yeah, I think put up your protection if you feel like you need that. But for me, it's about the surrender. What is it you're going in for? Is it the right reason, right? I know people in spirituality who chase after stuff and they're in it like 6-7 times a year. And I'm like, well, what did you learn if you need to do it that many times? Like, is there not a completion point? Or are you just chasing your demons away? And I think this is where your comment comes in with that, is if you're chasing the demons, they can't go anywhere because you're chasing them, right? There's no aspect of this for them to leave. And I think for me, something that I actually went through when I was in Mount Shasta was there was a gentleman that was there and I didn't really know him. The day before I had found out that he was my husband in a past life and he had left when I was pregnant. And our connection was so strong in the medicine that when the medicine was done, it was like, oh, dude, like we have like massive off the chart chemistry. But it's like when you're guided by spirit to help in any way that you can, as he was going into his ceremony, I was up 6:30 morning working on him. He wasn't even in medicine yet. They're like, you need to clear him. And I could literally see things dancing in and out of his body as he was trying to fight this of staying and keeping his old story and the inner child wounds and blah, blah, blah. So for me, I can see it on medicine or not on medicine. So for me, I think that's a gift to be able to help not on medicine, right? So for me, it's like, let's go facilitate and help people shift this really quickly and let them release as they're in it. And then they can stop chasing the demons.
Do you feel like if someone is drawn to do plant medicine or whatever, or DMT or ayahuasca, that there's something waiting for them to discover?
It's either a discovery or a release.
So that something is waiting to happen, shall I say?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think you know exactly where you are in your journey to ask for which. So for me, I went in not knowing anything about plant medicine, just very open. And the moment they asked what we wanted to, I'm like, I want to know the next level. Like it was a no-brainer. I didn't need to go through the whole purge and I need to go heal my inner child. No. I needed to know what was next. When I did it the second time in Sedona, though, it was very interesting experience. I had heard another girlfriend say that she went through this massive purge. And so I asked, I'm like, remove anything in the way. And I maybe asked for just a little bit too much to be removed out of the way, because I went through all the physical abuse that I had ever endured. So being raped, beat, you name it. And by the time I got out, it felt like forever I was in there. It was freezing cold. But when I came out, I had bruises all over my body. And I went, thank you. Like it was an amazing experience and that's when they closed my records. I was like, I'm good. And I try to go back in. They're like, it's closed. They're like, don't bother. I'm like, what? So it's very interesting, right? That we can heal so much in a short amount of time. I think for some people it's necessary.
So what happened on a, shall we say, a mental level, a spiritual level, whatever, actually had an effect on your physical body that manifested in the physical, where you said you had bruises and stuff like that? Yeah.
So I could feel every punch. I could hear every word being yelled at me. I felt the whole thing. And then I went into my halls of learning. Mine's very interesting. It's got a map on the floor and it's got like books of learning stuff. And I literally like went through the other aspect of every spell that I ever cast on myself to try it out. I had like broken shards of glass in my spine, and I'm sitting there going, okay, that was dumb. Got to remove that. Like, it was just very interesting where we've tormented ourselves in so many ways and we don't let ourselves off the hook for anything. And I think that's, in this lifetime, we beat ourselves up so bad. We're so conditioned from the day we're born. And it's like, be gentle on yourself. It's okay to go through these ups and downs and highs and lows. But at the end of the day, can you just breathe? Like, we forget to breathe and know that it's going to be okay. And the surrender is really important.
What you mentioned about halls of learning? Did you say hall? What is that? I've never heard of that before.
So the halls of learning is like your personal library of everything you've ever learned. So instead of having to feed through your Akashic, it's just a library of all your learning. So I learned that I was a really powerful, we'll call it like sorcerer witch, but not of the caliber to hurt somebody else. But as I'm in the ceremony, I'm like, okay, let's set up Egypt. So I was literally in the king's chamber setting up this triangular grid with candles, just so that when we walked in the door, it was like, okay, go sit in the tomb sarcophagus. And I'm like, well, that was easy. And it's because I had already gridded up and went in this plant medicine. But I learned a lot of magic while I was in there, like positive magic that I use now. Just understanding like how to do things. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Do you meditate or sleep under a pyramid or anything like that?
No. No. I have a pyramid. I have a copper pyramid that I'll meditate under outside. It's very high frequency. It's hard to sit there for too long without like, okay, I'm high as a kite. So I do have that. I don't meditate very often. I actually have an Anya light that I'll go lay under for about 30 minutes, and it mimics doing the DMT. And yeah, I get a lot of information that way, but it's very relaxing to me. Cool. I don't feel we have to meditate. I think you'll get to a point where it's like, okay, show me what I need to know. And that's kind of how I am. I can watch you guys and still do this over here. My gods will show me new stuff. So it's learning to multitask really with information and what's going on. So I've always been like that. So it's like meditation can be hard. I started at 5 minutes and worked up to about 8 hours. So it takes time and patience. And
Jesus Christ.
If it's hard to sit still, then don't try.
Oh yeah, and there are obviously other forms of meditation, as you know, as we all know. But What was I going to say? Yeah, because the reason I asked about the pyramid is because it's something that's been sort of I've always been aware of it, but it's something I saw again recently that has entered my awareness about having a pyramid over your bed and sleeping sort of inside the pyramid, so you get that. Whether you're about to sleep or not, I don't know, but I'm gonna give it a try. Just I like trying stuff out, experiment. You know, I know you're very much of the like, oh, try this, try that, because I know you had about 40 million jobs before you did in a year before you did the got into the spirit thing. But yeah, so I thought I'd give it a try, and so I'm gonna build a copper pyramid and stick it on my bed and see how it goes. But
Sit in it on the floor first before you put on your bed. Sit it on the floor so that you can alchemate the vibration to you first. It is a lot. It is a lot. I think the first time I ever sat, and it was like 2 minutes. I'm like, I'm out. Like it was a lot. Yeah. So do on the floor first, so you actually get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I'll test that out. I currently grounded my bed, but this is sort of a DIY setup where it's just a sort of metal tape, aluminium, is that aluminium? Some metal tape strip across my bed, and that's connected to a wire that's connected to the wall, the earth plug. So that's sort of my form of grounding. I don't know how safe it is, but I've been all right so far. But because you can get grounded sheets that plug in. I imagine they got some sort of safety device on them, whereas mine hasn't. But there we go. We don't get many lightnings much lightning in the UK, so I should be all right. But
there's nothing wrong with being a little rebellious, Jim.
Well, you got to try these things out, haven't you? So find out what works.
I don't do any of that. Like, I really don't. Like, yeah. I tend to ground as I go, and it's good. But yeah, if you need that in your sleep, my head hits a pillow, I'm out like a light, so I don't really.
Oh yeah, I've never had any trouble sleeping. I just sort of sounded interesting, so I thought I'd try it. I don't necessarily ground as much as I should. I live on the second floor. Mind you, that's just an excuse. Saying that is just an excuse for me not being bothered, being too lazy to walk down the stairs and go outside. So I figured if I can get 8 hours grounding in a day through sleep, then everyone's a winner. So
Absolutely.
But yeah, what was I going to say? Thomas, you got any questions while I try and remember what I was going to ask?
I had some. I was trying to think what they were. Magic. My guides say magic. Like, I think it's so misrepresented. So I'll give you a story. When I was in Savannah, obviously I do a lot of like entity stuff and darker, like I help people with darker stuff. So I had gotten a message from like 3 different people that there were some witches that were going to do a blood sacrifice on me. And I don't even think it was personal. I think they just targeted me because I was so crazy on TikTok at that time. Anyways, like, look at this guy with his shirt off. Anyways, so like, and then I had helped an MK Ultra victim, if you want to call them that. I didn't know what I was walking into with that either. And then there was a bunch of other stuff going on, to say it long story short. And I was like, okay, God, I can't handle this much energy. Like, I don't know what's going on with this shit. What do I do? So I wound up in a witchcraft store. Now, this guy is like a master witch. Light, dark, chaos, blood, anything you can think of, he knows it. And this is something a spiritual thing people don't want to talk about because everything's got to be love and light. And we both know there are a lot of people out there doing this stuff anyways. So I won't touch blood and chaos magic. But the point is that I try to keep things on the light side as much as I can. I don't even like casting spells. But the point, unless I have to. But he's like, one spell will solve all of this. He's like, with your power and one spell. And it took me months to cast that spell because I didn't want to hurt anybody. But as soon as I did that thing and I placed it where I needed to place it, everything went silent.
Yeah.
This kaboom. So I guess my question to you is, why are people so afraid? Because I know people misuse it, because I would see people come in the store all the time, and I would say to him, these people don't need to be messing with magic. They don't know what they're doing. But why are people so afraid of this? It's almost like a lot of people in the new age / spiritual whatever movement they hate Christianity, but they also hate witchcraft, and witchcraft infiltrated Christianity. So like, I mean, they've taken that in the Crusades and stuff and infiltrated. So I guess my question is, why are people in the New Age movement so afraid of magic?
I feel like it's the same, like they're unsure. They don't ask enough questions as to what's going on. They don't understand their intuition. They don't understand like certain aspects of stepping into this. I mean, I think you guys have been in this longer than I have. So it's like everyone's in a hurry to get to here. And it's like they're going to miss and bypass all this stuff in between. Whereas if you slow it down a little bit, you actually learn more. But there's this need to be like, that's true and that's not, and I'm gonna da-da-da and that's da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's to point a finger and then to want instant results, right? So if one day I'm like, oh, let's cast a spell, and then the next day you're like shitting bricks, well, obviously there's a disconnect between what you're trying to bring in. And I find the Christianity thing very interesting that you had said, because they're still trying to decide what's right and what's wrong to them. That's no judgment, but go decide. Like, and go play it a little bit of it and see how it feels, right? It's easy to cast a judgment on something we have known nothing about. If you look at what you just said, a spell, well, you cast spells every day of the week with your words. Yeah. So why is a spell that you do with a candle any different? You're literally setting the intention of what you want to have happen. It's maybe just becoming a little bit more into the thought process of why you want to do that, right? Yeah. The first rule of magic is to do no harm. Yeah. The harm just goes back to sender, right? And then I'm living proof that has happened. I had a girl do 2 spells on me when I went to my first Egypt trip, and everything backfired. And I'm like, you know, you chose that pathway for yourself, and you knew because you preached it. I said, the only way that you activated your spell was by telling me, and that was on purpose. So if you think about your daily life, how many times have you said something, gone, I shouldn't have said that. Or you say something out of haste, you know the repercussions of it. This is why they're afraid to cast a spell. They're afraid of the magic component because they're afraid of how powerful they truly are. And it all comes down to like mother-father figure. If you take that right down to childhood, you can't do that. You're not allowed, right? You're casting those spells from the day you're born. So I think a lot of people are misinformed. I work with Mary Magdalene with magic. And to me, that's, you know, there's a school about it. I didn't even know until I stepped in with her. And to me, it's kind of like it is the sanctuary. Create your sanctuary of understanding of what you're doing first. And that's not just for magic. And I'm sure you guys will agree. That's for everything. What are you practicing first and foremost to put out there? If you're doing magic because someone's, you know, you've got a witch programming you, well, he's going to drop you just as quickly as you stepped into that. Right? You're just regurgitating as a puppet, right? So you want to be the puppet master, or do you want to be the puppet, right? Become the master of your creation abilities. You know, that's what I've always stepped into. That's what I teach my students. Become the master. You are what you do. You are what you speak. So sit in integrity. People are afraid to dabble into their own magic to begin with. And magic in a sense of, what is it like to be me? What's your legend? Who are you? Right? The being of you. When you step into that, everything else disappears.
I think it kind of, the thought just occurred to me that most people don't want to lead because that involves responsibility. They're happy to just follow. You know, that's fair enough. It takes all sorts. You know, there's leaders, there's followers, etc. It just depends. I don't know. We had Luca on last week who did the human design, and you know there was some aspects of we didn't get round to leaders and followers, but I imagine some people's human design or astrology or whatever, they're born to be, or the experience that they chose was to be a follower and just sort of follow everyone and do as they're told, etc. But then again, some people change. You know, some people, like I used to always do what I was told. Then I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. Although we all do to some degree, otherwise we'd be doing exactly what we want instead of, you know, we wouldn't choose to pay taxes or whatever. So we, you know, to some degree we're choosing and we're following and doing what we're told. Obviously, there's rules, and there's common law and all of that. Do no harm, which is like what you said about magic. The first rule is do no harm, and I think that's one of probably the most important. Do no harm to others. But I wanted to ask you about truth, because do you feel like we always hear, oh, speak your truth, people are speaking their truth, etc. But is that connected? Is there an actual truth, or is everyone's truth different? And is there a sort of, are they connected, or are there individual truths, or is there a sort of almost like a main truth? You know what I mean?
I think there's governing laws. So there's laws of the universe, not necessarily like the 10 Commandments. You can go by that if you want to. So you have governing laws up here, and then within yourself, you will have your own truth. And so that truth will be shown to you as you need to see it. And those who resonate with the truth that you speak will align into their own truth from that. It's when we start to believe in BS, and we know it's BS, and yet you choose to follow. That's where the untruth comes in. And I call that the lie truth. So you've got the lie and you've got the lie truth. You choose the lie and the lie truth. Which one are you going to choose? They're both lies. So the truth has to come from within. And I think the only way to know that for yourself is to ask for it to be shown. And that's the only way you come to those things, is the absolute. And when you come to the absolute, there's no waver, there's no wobble, and that's conviction. The conviction is what you stand in without a wobble at all. It's, this is it, and this is how it is for me. If that resonates, take it. If it doesn't, I don't give a shit. You choose. But we have to stand in what we know to be true. And I always ask, I'm like, show me how this works. Show me how this unfolds. Show me why this is here. I don't just go, okay, show me this, and that's the truth. I'm like, no, let's go deeper. Let's go deeper into that. I want to know 100%, right? The whole last 4 years is 100% of that was for me. I was like, show me the truth. They're like, just look. Take a moment to step back and become the observer and just look. And I did. I sat back and I looked and I went, there's nothing happening. They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, show me more. And I would go to the store and see, like, and this is not an exaggeration, 27 car lineup of people waiting to go into Walmart to buy groceries. And I went, you've got to be kidding me. Like, that's what it's come to. Show me the truth. They're like, go over here. I would pull out the parking lot, go to the next Walmart or the next grocery store. Not a single lineup. Okay, show me the truth of this. Okay. Walk in. Excuse me. I'm not able to wear one. So instead of saying I have a medical blah, 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 I'm not able to wear one. You take whatever reasoning you want to conjure up for yourself. I'm standing in my truth that says, I don't really believe what you're telling me because I know to be true that that's not there. It doesn't exist. So that's my truth. Anybody else who followed with the mask or followed without a mask, that's your truth. You did it for whatever reason you had. I did it in my own truth that said, no, thank you. Because I know that to be true. The other thing I'll share with you too, and this is something that I learned a long time ago, actually when I went on mission with my girlfriend to create Soul Transformation Program, is they would show us a lot of this. It's like, here's the illusion, here's the truth. And it's like you have to dissect it to get to that. And so just because something shows up like this, dissect it. Okay, show me the behind the scenes of that. Because sometimes you're only seeing the puppet master. Here's the puppet. What's the truth behind it? And once you start to pull these filters and layers away, you'll start to see the truth. I noticed it in the very beginning with, her name is Lori. I don't want to say the last name. It starts with an L. We'll leave it at that. But she had told people a belief that she believed to be true, but they didn't see the end result of it. And they just didn't question it. And they kept following. And I just sat there and went, oh my word, like she's the puppet master and you're all just little puppets. And I just stepped out and I'm like, delete, 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 delete. I don't want any of that. Because you're basically doing who said that, where you're like both sides, right? Here's this and I'm going to lure you with this. That's exactly what she was doing. And I just sat there and went, I'm so grateful that I know what the illusion is. Right?
Mm.
So when we understand it for ourselves, it changes the game.
Mm.
And that's all this is just a game. You're just playing a game with yourself as the avatar, right?
Mm.
The GPS comes on, it's got to navigate to where you are on the road. You're doing the same thing. What does every moment look like as you walk forward? There is nothing else. It's just this now moment. You can want something over here, but everything is this moment. I choose this, I choose this, I choose this, I choose this. I don't choose those other things. And that's not to say, like, one day you could be like, oh, this resonates. The next day, this doesn't resonate anymore. And then 2 months from now, you could be like, oh, hold on a second. Now you're speaking my language again. You know, we had that with Marina Jacobi at the very beginning. We're like, oh, this is really cool. Here's the harmonics. And here's how this works in manifestation. And it was like, you're like, yeah, I'm good. And I watched a little bit more and I'm like, I'm good. And then every once in a while, it's like, go watch this or go watch a snippet of this. Right? It's just feeding you the little nugget and letting go of the rest. Right? It's that confirmation. Yes, that's true. Thank you so much for that. But question everything.
You feel like a lot of this comes from the subconscious, so it's like subconscious reprogramming. I think that's like the first step that no one ever talks about.
Yeah. So the program that I teach, Master of Creation, this is where the deep dive comes down. It's a simple process that brings it full circle really quick, and the shift is massive. There's things in my childhood that I've endured that no one should have to, and unfortunately it does happen. I can't even, there's nothing tangible about it. I can't go back and remember it. It just vanishes. Like there's no charge, there's no nothing. And so for me, when it comes to those things in our life that we forget, but we still beat ourselves up on, this is where we need to start understanding that you've programmed yourself to bring this forward. Most of I think everything that we know right now is literally just a lie we create to keep us safe. You've told yourself it for whatever reason, justify, or I love this one. A lot of people say it. Oh, my parents didn't know what they were doing. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. You're just using that as your filter that says this justifies why they treated me like poo. And I'm like, are we done with that? We're done with that story. We've got to be at some point, or you're not living, right? I can honestly say this is the first time in my life since Shasta that I have felt so much love. Like it just beams, and I'm just like, wow, this feels so good to just sit in the love. Yeah.
I guess the first, I'm reminded of the saying, be impeccable with your word. Someone, the 4 laws or something like that. I can't remember what his name is, Michael Sanchez or something like that.
The 4 agreements?
Yeah, the 4 agreements. That's it. One of them is be impeccable with your word. And sort of occurred to me that the first almost requisite, shall we say, prerequisite of any healing work that you want to do is to be honest, totally honest with yourself. So if people are saying, oh, they're making excuses for the way people have treated them or what have you, then that's not necessarily being honest. Like you say, it's just it's just sort of a filter, a comfort thing, because you don't want. I mean, revisiting one's past, per se, is not necessarily an easy thing, and some people aren't ready to do it, and that's fair enough. We all sort of, there's no rush, and I guess there's no time limit. Nothing lasts forever, I suppose, except us. But yeah, it's something that always I've noticed is that we could do with being more honest with ourselves, and that starts with noticing how we talk about ourselves as well. Because, like you say, why do you think that we're so harsh on ourselves? That really puzzles me.
It's your little imprinting from your parents. It starts with that. There's realizations you'll have as you go through this journey. You guys may have gone through it already, where it's like, oh, my mom, or oh, my dad. You know, it starts so early. We believe so much of perception of what we see, and we take it on as truth. I've had people like one young lady, she's like, oh, my dad almost killed my mom. And I'm like, how do you know that? Well, I just know. And then I brought her through it. She's like, oh my word, that didn't even happen. Right. I love putting it this way. When we're a child, if I threw a pen at you and you're like, hey, don't do that, I got to go to school the next day and go, oh my gosh, I threw this pen at my brother and he got a wound. And oh my gosh, I had to go. Anything to embellish that. right? And then that becomes embedded and that becomes this and this and this and this. So I think we're so used to just covering up to make ourselves small, that once we uncover that, the massive transformation actually starts to happen. I have a young woman, she's in my Master of Creation course right now, becoming a coach. And I'm sure lots of people who are going to watch this are going to possibly resonate, where it's like, I need to starve myself, or I need to withhold food and pretend like saying I'm fasting in order to lose the weight or to lose whatever. And that was one key point I brought to her, was that that's not the correct way to do that. You're denying yourself life by saying, I can't have that. And she was making herself ill, actually. She was feeling like shit. And I'm like, if you're fasting for the right reason, you shouldn't feel like shit at all. And so as we brought her full circle with this, as soon as we finished, she released the programming from her childhood. And she actually, the next day, she goes, I need to go buy new pants. Less than 12 hours. She's like, I got to go. She's like, my pants are too big. And I'm just sitting there going, excuse what? So it's kind of like we hold ourselves hostage in all of these things and create it as a truth when it's really a lie. It's just a big lie.
Totally.
We can't be better than somebody else. We can't, it's all it is. We play small.
Yeah. There's no competition, is there? But except what we create, I suppose. But you mentioned the Master of Creation program. That's something that you offer. What is it exactly?
So it's a few different techniques in one. One is about trusting your intuition. So it walks you through understanding yourself, really. And it brings components together of healing, transformation. It brings forward like manifestation, and overall just shifting into what the truth is. So it's a year-long program, and we've let the students practice on us. And we've even shifted so much that we're like, holy crap, like, so many things just don't exist anymore in this reality, that you really come into this now moment. There is no other moment. And they're saying the same thing. She just literally messaged me today. She's like, I can't even tell you, like, I'm living in the moment for the first time. She stood up to her boss for the first time. And, she wasn't allowed to take holidays because he told her XYZ. And she's like, you know what? I really don't give a shit. Find someone to fill my spot. I'm just like, holy crap. Another guy, he was like, yeah, my clairs and I can't see and this. And I'm like, you realize you just said you could see everything. So we had like this big party because, when you doubt yourself and you can't do this and you can't do, cleared the whole shit out of there. And we just sat there and, yay, that celebration moment, right? Because he did it for himself. Nobody else did it for him. And I think that's the main thing, is understanding what you've created. Nobody else really created it for you. If you listen to somebody else, that was on you. Right. So this bigger understanding of everything is coming forward right now for us to really take hold and show people, how miraculous you really are. And the moment you set and connect to one union, everything unfolds, everything. And I'm not saying you have to be religious. You can be whatever you want to be. And there's no judgment. I love you just the same. But when you realize that connection that's here 100%, and then it's just you and him, that's it. You don't need anything else. And more, everything's showing up to support that exact thing. So yeah, it's just very interesting.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
If there were other lifetimes, we would all look at God different ways. No matter, if it was Atlantis, Lord knows what it would be. I remember being the high priest there, but I don't know how that all worked. I remember more the fall than anything. But I just know that. So even with like spirit guides and stuff, if we were in the middle of the jungle, they would show themselves as like animals, I would imagine.
Absolutely. They'll show totally however they need to come to you, is how they will. And people get freaked out when I tell this story, but when I asked for the understanding of truth, integrity, Archangel Seraphina came. And it's just a merger of yourself with that aspect of yourself that needs to teach you that. And I was like, oh my gosh, you let this come in your body. I'm like, she's me. she knows more than I do at this moment. So yeah, come on in. I welcome you. But it's so interesting when they come in to teach you these things or show up in front of you to teach you these things. When they leave, it's a loss. Like you're like, oh, come back. Oh my gosh. Because you get so used to that living in that integrity of what they're showing you and breathing and being, that when they go, it's like, oh, what did I miss? Did I miss something? You need to come back. And so that exact thing is, if we're not understanding why things are showing up, ask to be shown. Ask to see the tangible, ask to have it unfold for you right before your eyes so you can see all of it. If you need Archangel Gabriel to show up, he will take a form of a human for you to see him. If you need it as something else to guide you and walk beside you, it'll be a dog. Like you name it, it'll show up how you need to see it. We think it has to be a certain way, and that's where people get hung up. Is like, oh, if this isn't showing up this way, then it doesn't exist. Well, then you're narrow-minded in the aspect that the universe is much bigger than you are, right? So, I've had these encounters with many things over the past 5 years, and for me, I wouldn't trade any. You could tell me that it's demons and blah blah blah. I wouldn't. No, you can't even prove that to me, because the way you feel will support exactly what's transpiring. And for me, it's pure love to show us the way home, right? It's connecting to ourselves and understanding the whole thing. Atlantis is an interesting one. I was Rhea in Atlantis. And so I've seen the healing center. I've been in the healing center. There's a crystal in the floor. And, I went and saw the new Aquaman movie in the middle of the theater, and all of a sudden his wife in the movie gets burnt. And I sat there in pain, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, she's an actress. They're like, heal yourself. And I'm like, what? I'm sitting there healing myself in the movie theater. My daughter's like, are you okay? I'm like, His brother gets singed on the other side. And I'm like, dudes, like, I was like scorching, like in pain. And I'm like, what? He's an actor. They're like, heal yourself. And I'm like, my daughter's like, are you okay? I'm like, clearly I need to heal a lot from over here. And I was like, this is the first time I've ever had that kind of an experience where it showed up on like a movie screen as a tangible to be able to go, hey, this is part of you, which is interesting because later it was like, I could see myself being chained to the bottom of the ocean and drowned. And then what happened next was I came into my mother's womb and I went, Source, we're not doing this again. I was like, fuck no. He's like, you're going back. I'm like, nope. He's like, you got something more to do. I'm like, okay. And I was like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So it's very interesting how all of that will show up to support us, to show us the truth, to show us the alignment, to show us where we need to be to help somebody else too.
So it wasn't necessarily, well, I suppose you did have a choice ultimately to come back because you didn't have to do what you were told.
I tried to get out of it. That didn't work. I saw myself going, Source, no, I'm not. I'm like walking. He's like, you're going. I'm like, no. It's like, get in there. I'm like, shit. Yeah. So clearly we have a choice to a certain extent, but I feel like there's a calling. I really do. I feel like we can go through all these lifetimes and do multiple things. I haven't had a lot of lifetimes where like I was the peasant or those kinds of things. I've been a lot of higher elevated in society. So I haven't had to do the whole poor thing and that. So I did go through that a little bit in this life, but I think it teaches us humble. And I think that's why it's brought in. It's, are you humbled by this? And I've cried for being humble, where you can give someone $100 off their grocery bill or pay it in full and have them argue with you over it. And to me, that's humbling. Thank you, universe, for giving me that to be able to support these people who don't have it. Right. Or, it's their last $10. They're like, okay, now $10 for the rest of the week. It's like, let me just pay your bill, keep the 120. Right. So I think that becomes more important than the material and the, what can I have as opposed to give. So, I think everyone strives when they come here with whatever the challenges are. And they actually just asked me to share this as well. So I use this as a reference actually a lot with coaching clients. And that's the understanding of your contract, right? So if this is your contract, this is a very thin one. if this is your contract before you get here, and on line 2, it says, when you're 2 years old, you're going to choke on a pea and they're going to take you to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can actually stop the things that are transpiring right now and say no more. And you can rewrite the rest of your contract. That's all I did. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I didn't grow up with like the finer things in life. My grandmother bought them for me because my mom didn't have any money. And so as I walked through this, I was like, okay, so I don't want to keep going of understanding how to be poor. I really want to change that. So it was just a mindset shift. And all of a sudden everything changed. I was like, okay, it's that easy. So we can start shifting every single thing in our contract that we've agreed to. Okay, thank you. I've learned that lesson. Let's rewrite that. Okay, I've learned that lesson. Let's rewrite that. So there is things you come here to learn. You have to learn them. Absolutely. Right.
So is it a question of, it's not necessarily a question of, right, you've learned that, so therefore it's going to automatically change. You decide that you've learned it and then you change it yourself.
Yeah. You'll be tested after to see if you're going to choose the same thing again. But once you've done it, it's done. Yeah. I had a student of mine. She, her husband was verbally not nice to her, and she had taken her parents away on vacation, and he verbally just tormented her to the point she couldn't get out of bed. And I'm like, honey, what's going on? She goes, oh, this. And it's like, okay, you're in a story, right? Can't get out of bed. Now you're unwell. And I said to her, got her to the point where she got it. She got up, she started moving. And as soon as she got home, we had a call. And I said to her, you have one of two choices. And she's like, okay, I'm listening. I'm like, you can actually recreate this with your husband, or the universe is going to give it to you tenfold. She goes, okay, so we're going to recreate that starting tomorrow. I'm like, a girl. So she wanted to make sure that her husband got the message that wasn't okay and that everything was shifting. And they have a beautiful marriage. Like their marriage is amazing, 10 million times stronger than it was in the very beginning. But she learned the lesson of it's not okay to treat people like shit. And so she stood up for herself and she's like, no more. And so we can push that a little bit of that into that and go, okay, show me what this looks like. Show me how this represents itself, and you'll see it unfold. Right. Sometimes it's nice to know that you can say, okay, show me. And then therefore I can clear it because I know it's coming. Right. And so sometimes that's easier for people than waiting in anticipation for something bad to happen. Hey, show me everything I need to know about this. I did that with Egypt the first time I went, and like, show me. 6 weeks later, I was like, okay, we're finally done purging this. We're good. I don't need it anymore. Right. So sometimes it's easier to say, show me, because I'm just going to clear it and then it's done. Right. And so you'll be tested. I was tested right after, and I was like, nope, off they went. Right. So it's all about choice. It really is. It's how do you want to show up for yourself? How do you want to live your life? How do you want to help humanity? How do you want to, serve?
Do you have any, I suppose you could call them rituals, but do you have anything that you do on a daily basis? Like you say a prayer before you go to bed or when you wake up, or do you have any, do you have anything that you do as not necessarily a habit, but just something that you do as a daily routine that you feel that is beneficial to you?
Yeah. So for me, I do gratitude every morning. So I lay in bed. As soon as my eyes are I'm aware of my surroundings, I just keep my eyes closed or open them. And I just start at the top of my head, work my way to the bottom of my toes, internal, external, wherever I need it. Bring in my guides, my angels, and then give gratitude to source for everything. Be an appreciation for everything in that moment. And yeah, that's how I start my day every day, just allowing them to be in fully, completely. And a lot of people ask me, like, do you ever turn this stuff off? I'm like, I don't. I don't know how you survive turning it off. I'm like, let's just keep it open. Let's just keep going. So for me, I love having that channel of communication. And so it's just inviting them in. For me, I don't meditate, but I'll sit here and channel them while I'm working and say, okay, what about this and this and this? So for me, the odd time when I'm guided to, I'll do the light, and go explore things with that. But no, it's very simple. Like I don't, if I'm working and I'm typing something up, I literally just put on an audiobook or, a meditation. That's it. I just sit in the zone with them and just allow the flow of channeled information. I think it's really important. Like I walk every day, twice a day, as much as I can. And I intuitively eat. My body says no to something, I don't eat it. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about food actually. Where the kind of what if there was a particular I don't know diet, shall we say, that you follow or you think that that sort of we're designed for, because there's so many different opinions on humans should eat this or they shouldn't eat that, and you just think you can make a case for everything.
yeah. I think first and foremost, it has to be by what your body says. So
Yeah.
a lot of people will talk about fasting. I have tried. I cannot fast in the morning. I will literally pass out. Like my body needs a little bit of fuel in the morning. So I go by that. And that's from trying. Like I tried it and I'm like, nah, pass out time, an hour and a half after that. No. So I do better fasting the later half of the day. I can skip dinner if I really need to. And then I have to eat breakfast the next morning because you're like, okay, I'm good. For me, I don't eat beef. That was something that I got rid of about 3.5 years ago. And it was for the right reason. I wanted to see what my body would feel like without it. It wasn't, I need to be vegan to be a channel. Yeah. So I stopped eating beef and now my kids don't eat beef. So it's not something I buy. And we actually feel much better. Like our guts feel better. Our body feels better. We feel actually more energy. But I intuitively eat after that. I try to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. We eat a lot of eggs. Yeah. Other than that, like I don't eat chips or any of that kind of stuff. I don't eat chocolate. I don't drink pop. No coffee. So I'll drink tea, water. That's about it. No juice, no pop. But I haven't done that for a year, like almost 7 years. No alcohol, no cigarettes, no drugs. Like I don't do, other than the plant medicine stuff that I have, like I don't do any of that stuff. I think I've tried marijuana twice. That's about it. So that was when I was 16. So I think for everybody, it's do what your body's asking it to do. And that's what I teach a lot of people too, is intuit everything if you're unsure. Like I'll teach people at the grocery store, yes, no. Okay, what? No, that's not the right bread for you. Go to this one. So I think it's really important to listen to your body. What does your body need in that moment? Right? So if your body's craving fuel, give it an apple. Give it, carrots and celery. But yeah, I even me, like I'm a little bit picky with my water too. So I'll buy distilled water and then I just run it through my Berkey system because it makes it taste better. So that's my one thing that I splurge on for myself is just being able to have my bottled water. But yeah, it's you just have to choose what's right for you. And if you're unsure, just omit one thing at a time but do it for the right reason. I think that's where a lot of people get caught up with weight loss too. They're like, oh, I need to lose this, so I have to change this. And I'm like, that's the totally wrong reason. If you do it for the right reason, you'll lose the weight faster. So everything for the right reason.
Yeah, totally. Because you find that people tend to do better with that have, or shall we say, completely different diets. You can try something. I like to try stuff. I tried being a vegetarian for a couple of months. Didn't work. I was tired all the time, and so I knew that was my body saying that you need a bit of whatever it is that meat is now. But then there's also fruits and vegetables, like you say. Some fruits might work, some vegetables might work. So it's just I find that intuitive eating, personally, the best way to go about things. And do you find that the kind of apply to the seasons? It also, but during summer and spring, you eat a certain type of food, and then in the autumn and winter, then it changes, or is it the same the whole way through?
Yeah, for us, it's the same. The only thing that changes is the fruit because we live in Canada. So the climate's different for fruits and vegetables, right? So some stuff is not in season. So all we do is, even when it is in season, we just bag it up and freeze it so that we always have smoothies of whatever. So yeah, here we tend to eat the same thing over and over again, but we'll switch it out for like different sides and stuff. But no, my kids are habitual. It's like this. So, and they're still kids yet. Well, one's 12, one's 23, but it's like keeping things in unison for them so that, they're not starving at 5 o'clock. So for us, it's quick and easy. Right. So, but yeah, it's supporting your own body system, right? Nobody can tell you to be something you don't want to be. Like if someone's trying to convince you to be a vegetarian so that you can connect to your guides and stuff, I can tell you I've never been a vegetarian in my life and I still connected to my guides. So what I will say too, though, is follow your own. If somebody tells you can't do something, go find somebody else to learn from, because to me, that's the wrong message. right? I've had a lot of teachers, okay, let's have a kumbaya moment, and you need to open your eye, and you need to connect into their heart space, and memorize their eyeballs. And I'm like, no, no, thank you. It just seems like a lot of work to be able to go, here, I'll just connect to you. So it's find your own pathway, find what resonates, find the thing that, makes you want to learn. I think a lot of people get turned off by certain things, and it's like, follow your passion. There's more than one website out there. Go explore all of them, and then come back to the ones that resonate. But if anybody's telling you can't do something, find another teacher.
Yeah, do it. Just
find somebody else. Yeah. I mean, it's because they want to put limitations to say you can't do it because they want you to stay with them. And I see that a lot in this industry. It's like, oh, over here. No, you can't leave. Can't leave. You're going to fail if you leave. Like, oh my gosh. No.
That's the thing that I don't know. Whatever you think of the establishment, shall we say, or the man, it seems like they're so well organized. And they might have different offices around the world, etc. But they all seem that they're sort of reading from the same script on the same page. Whereas when you look at the sort of the rest of humanity, everyone's all in their little groups and they're not talking to each other because they're all in competition. And that seems like there's a disconnect. That's the difference. If you want to say there's a difference, and if you consider that there is an elite group that run the world, for example, it seems like they can only do it because they're far more better organized and they're all pulling for the same goal or whatever. Whereas the humans,
it's like they're 1% and we're 99 and we haven't figured out how to go like this.
Yeah, we don't know how to work together. We all kind of want the same thing, but we're in competition with each other.
It's the consequence. What's the consequence if I stand up and unite with everybody else? There's a consequence, right? In Canada, and I'm only saying this because you brought it up. In Canada, on the government website, CRA website, it used to not say anything about filing taxes. Like, you could find nothing. And I questioned them. I'm like, you don't even know your own forms over there. Now it says you must file your taxes and you must do this. And I'm like, oh, so you've had backlash where you want your money. And more people are going to stop filing because whatever reasons they've come up with to mess people over. It's not going to go well. They're in a big lawsuit now. Like, So it's us rise. And that's why I say, like, put yourself on a pedestal to see things and then bring yourself down when you're with other people and walk side by side. Right. That's what we have to learn is, let me hold your hand. Let me help you. Let me guide you. Let me hold your hand and show you how easy it is to pull you forward with me, as opposed to going, okay, come on. Oh my gosh. Like, you're like dead weight. Can you just walk already? Like, let's go. Because we're only as strong as our weakest link. It's the same as a wolf pack, right? They'll eat the weakest link stands at the back, and we're like, and that's why they put the best one behind them. So it's like, get going, I'll bite you in the ass. Let's go. And so that's where we need to bring humanity is, let's go. I'm willing to hold your hand and support you. At some point, you have to do some of this work too, right? It's nice that we want to pay other people to help us. Where's your role in this? Where's the role that says I'm willing to invest in myself to do this? I invested in myself, like umpteen thousands of dollars invested in myself to go, I want this and I want to do this. At some point, invest in yourself with somebody. I mean, these two are awesome. Invest. It's okay to spend a little bit of money on yourself and invest with somebody, because the reward is you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Working on yourself. That's something that is not easy, but is, well, I guess you could say it's necessary. But then again, I suppose, could you also, coming at it from a different side, someone's contract, shall we say, is to just come to Earth and do nothing and just allow everything to happen, and they can be as lazy as they can be a sloth, you know.
I feel like that would be so fucking boring.
Yeah.
So you'll see this in Abraham Hicks stuff. The Abraham Hicks groups, same thing. It's like some people can just bypass everything and be like, da, 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 da. And other people are like, oh, well, why didn't I? So they're doing this. instead of just this, right? The other people are bypassing all of it because they don't need to do it. When in all actuality, you just need to stop it in your own contract and say, I'm done. Like, it's literally, you'll learn what you need to learn. Here's where it becomes the letting things unfold for you as you walk, as opposed to going, I need to go find this. I need to keep digging in the shadow work. I need to see. At some point, you just got to stop and go, okay, show me what I need to work on. It will show up right in front of your face, and then do it. We're not really, a lot of people are not living right now. They're diving for the worst part of themselves, and then they're staying stuck because they have to do it. The moment you stop, let the universe show you. Everything that's meant to be yours will still come to you. But most of us are holding things at bay because we're afraid to see what that looks like of change. But the moment you let it go, it all comes to you. So you might as well just let it come with ease and grace. It's a lot easier than trying to sit and, stay in a shadow that truly doesn't really exist, or you're just looking for flaws in yourself. Right? We become our own worst critic. I used to own a cake business for 15 years. I'd look at the cake and go, oh shit, that looks hell. And they'd come to the door and cry. And I'm like, what are you crying for? They're like, oh my gosh, it's the best cake ever. And I would sit there and go, okay, it's yours. Because we're so used to criticizing and finding our own flaws that when we get a compliment, it's like, okay, but you're nuts. Right? So
do you think that if someone was to criticize us, then if we knew that wasn't true, and then it wouldn't bother us, but if we take some, I don't know, resemblance or some part of that resonates even on a minute level, then
you'll feel it.
We'll feel it. Yeah, exactly. Like you said. But if someone was to call you something and there was no truth in it whatsoever, even if it's only a minimum, even if it's a little bit, if there's no truth in it, then it wouldn't bother you. You could just brush it off and not think about it. But if there is just a little bit there, then it will affect you, and it was their job or whatever to highlight that, even if it makes you go fully into yourself and dig for it, you might find that it's a gift that they've given you.
Yeah, it's the in moment. So I'm feeling this reaction. I'm feeling that this might be true. I'm feeling this uncomfortableness in my body. It's just sit with it for a second. Where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this? Is what they're telling me true or no? Can I let it go? I think that's the biggest two components is this mine or can I let it go? Because sometimes people will just say things because they're in a bad mood or they're having a bad day and we're taking on their truth. And this is where people define as an empath because they took it on. Empath doesn't really exist. If you actually think about it, it's just part of your clairs. It's your clairsentience. This is not mine. I give this back. Right? So it's learning to dissect that truth for yourself. Is this true? Why am I feeling this? Okay. Thank you so much. Next time it may be nothing. Right. Same with my scenario last night. I literally just ended up giggling. I was like, oh, that was really dumb of me to even consider that notion. And so next time I won't even entertain it. I'm like, I don't care. It's just done. Right. But we are creatures of learning lessons. Right. Because the lessons become consequences if we don't deal with it. Right. So that's all childhood programming. Right. Yeah. So when we stop it and we live in the moment, it's like, it's just this beautiful unfolding.
I agree. I see we're getting near where you sort of
near that time. I'm trying to send you a message. My other phone's trying to do it.
But is there anything that do you want to? You got any final questions, Thomas, or is anything?
No, we good. I'll make sure she gets to where she needs to go.
Okay. Do you want to just tell us about your websites and everything, Infinity Source Code and all of that, just to finish up with?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to reach out, infinitysourcecode.com is my online school and my website. And I'm on Infinity Source Code on TikTok and Pure Radiant Soul on Facebook.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Sheri. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys. This has been so much fun. I appreciate both of you and keep going. This podcast is amazing and it's reaching a lot of people. So keep going. It's really good. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. We will do our best. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Sheri, again. It was a pleasure. And we'll see you all again next week.
Sounds amazing. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Au revoir.